today's video, I'm walking through my flagship template, the Notion Productive Brain 3.0. This is by far the best second brain template that I've been able to devise from Notion so far. If you have been looking around YouTube for a good second brain, something solid that's going to help you get more done, something that's going to help you keep track of bookmarks, notes, this, that, whatever it is that you want to remember, important dates, this is the template for you. 500 plus other people have purchased this. Let's dive in. 3.0. Basically, it hasn't changed a whole lot in terms of where things are, but I've simplified a lot of things. So here we have the quick capture box, and we used to be able to quick capture 3 things. And it was this big, bulky database quick capture. I made some videos talking about how to basically create a button in Notion called a quick capture button before buttons existed. And finally, Notion released buttons, so I was able to replace it with these seamless, beautiful buttons in 3.0. So this one allows you to quickly add a new task or action, however you want to say it. And if I click on it, it just opens up a new task and I just give it an immediate name. So I can just say film Notion video if that's my task, and I can give it a new priority. I have meeting, quick, priority 1, priority 2, and priority 3. These are ordered in the order that I want to see them if they were on a list. So pri 1, 2, 3, that's my list. If I had a meeting or something that was a reminder or a quick, which means something that can take 1 to 3 minutes, and it's basically just it's a reminder. It's just something that I want to pin on top of my day in a sense. So if I hit quick and I change the action date to today, it's going to appear above all of my other actions. So this is kind of what I think of as like a reminder. And then if I hit complete, it just disappears from my task list. I'm going to mark it as incomplete, and we'll refer back to this later. I'm going to clear the action date, and I'm also going to clear this priority. So now this is empty, and I hit add action and basically just filled out the name. Let's say I didn't want to fill out any of this. Well, I could just close this, and now the task will be in my system, and I can process this task later. I don't have to worry about filling out a ton of properties right now. A lot of these systems that people sell you on Notion are just super cumbersome to keep up with, and you have to constantly fill out properties, and you have to know a lot about Notion to make it work. But with this system, you just quickly add a new task by giving it a name. So name here, and you don't even have to fill anything out. You just close this, and you can process it later using the process routine, which we will talk about in a moment. You can also add resources, and I've consolidated everything down to resources because anything that's not an action is a resource I've found. So anything like a link or a file, you can add a file here just by choosing a file from your computer or embedding a link to a PDF or a web page, whatever it is that you may want to embed a link to. Or you can give it a title here. So just give it a title of, let's say, YouTube video, and you could basically link a YouTube video right here. So that's kind of how you would use this. You can also just use it as a note just by typing into here. Type anything you want. You can do bullet points. You can do body. You can do entirely new databases in here if you wanted to. You can really do whatever you want within this canvas of this bookmark. So it also has the status of needs review. If you've already reviewed it and you don't want to come back to it later, then you can hit reviewed. But this is something that I will talk about again once we get to the process view. If you want to take a note, the point of the quick capture is just to be able to quickly hit add resource and then take a quick title down. What's your title? Note 1. Okay, what's my note? Note here. Okay, boom, I'm out of here. I took my note. I had my shower thought. I had my epiphany. And if you're a thinker, if you're a creative person, you're always having ideas. I know you are. So you can write them down here. And the ones that are good enough, 24 hours later, when you come back and you process them, you can actually take action on those. But the ones that are not worthy of going after, you were like, I was crazy when I was thinking about that, those are the ones that you don't need to worry about. So that is add action and add resource, and that's how you do it with the quick capture box. The next thing over is today's to-do. This is just a component within Notion that has a list of today's to-do list. So right now it has how to build a second brain in Notion. I did make a video on how to build a second brain in Notion, and it basically just shows you how to build a simpler version of what you're watching today. If you want to, you can check that video out using the card in the corner. I also have Film Productive Brain 3.0 demo in priority 2 here. So another video to film and film students second brain. So if I open up each of these, I also have some notes in here. So you can add notes to a task if you want. And you can even, if you want to, add subtasks. So you just type anything and you can check these off. So there's a lot of hierarchy within this. You know, you can basically add as many subtasks or notes as you want within a to-do or an action or a task, whatever you want to call it. This has lots of useful information like the action date, the due date. This is in the past right now, which means it's past due. So we'll look back at that in the process mode. The process mode is really the core of all of this template and how it runs. All right, I'm going to close this. That's my to-do list. When I complete something, I can mark it off. If I want to shelf something, I can come back to it later. It just hides it. So there's ways to just completely eliminate these things. I like to also move things because there's lots of ways to complete a task, because I believe that completing tasks is one of the most important things in this system. So I want to have very limited ways to keep a task in progress or to do, and I want to have lots of options for completing tasks. Archive just means get rid of it, right? It means just remove it, get it out of my face. It was an idea at one time, but I never got around to it, so I'm not going to do it. Delegate, that one is if you want to hire somebody, this is something to think about. So this is something that I learned from one of my mentors early on, is that if your work is like, you know, making 3 times what you can pay someone to do work for an hour, then you should just hire the work out. So that's why I have delegated in here, right? You should be doing high leverage tasks, especially if you're like a peak performer or you're really trying to accomplish something crazy. You know, if you're just coasting along life, that's one thing. Like, I'm not trying to say like you need to over optimize the shit out of your life. If you're just trying to move on with your day and get your work done, that's one thing. But if you are trying to do great things, you've got to delegate stuff. You can't do everything on your own. So that's why I have delegated in here. A lot of the people that use this template are operators. They're people who can delegate things out to others. And then I have unplanned. So this is something that I like to look back on. It's more for reflection purposes. So if I have something that comes up in my day that takes a bunch of time, I have to put out a fire, let's say. So this is just, let's just call it fire of the day. It just shows up and all of a sudden it's priority 1. Okay. I added that task on a dime and I completed it. And maybe it even happened and I completed it before I got to add it to my to-do list, but I just want to track that it happened. So I throw it in my to-do list really quick and I change the status to unplanned. And that shows me that it was like something that just came up, something that just popped up in the day. So that's how I like to use that status column there. So that's actions, that's today's to-do. The next thing down is today's habits. This is going to show you your daily habits for every single day. And you can set this up custom when you hook up the productive brain. You can set up whatever habits you want right here. For me, it's just drink 1+ liter of water, which I know 1 liter of water probably isn't really even enough, but it's good for me to at least get 1 liter of water, because if I can drink one of those Pellegrinos, just one of those 1 liter Pellegrinos, I'll feel good about myself. If I can drink 2 of them, then I'll feel really good, except I'll just have to wake up and I'll have to pee all night. So I try to aim for at least 1 liter a day, and I try to mark the days that I work out for 45 minutes. So even if I take a day off, I just leave it unchecked, but this is always here to track if I worked out or not. Okay. And next I track how many hours I slept, and I can tag things like if I was driving, if family time, I had a puppy, let's say, I just got a puppy, a new Australian Shepherd, so he's keeping me up all night. That's why I added that tag so that I could basically put that next to if I got like, let's say 3 hours of sleep. It's like, oh, I got a puppy. That makes sense why I got 3 hours of sleep. Or maybe I have a tag in here that says sick, you know, that would make sense why I got 3 hours of sleep, you know. So that's tags, and you can add as many as you want, and it's pretty simple. So that's how you can track metrics, so quantitative things in Notion. And this is how you can track like yes or no, true false statements within a second brain in Notion. So right here on my homepage, immediately I see my tasks for the day, I see my habits, I see my metrics, and here I see resources. And resources are viewed through a few different lenses. If something is pinned, it'll show up here. If something I took is recent, it will show up here. So these are recent notes within the past 24 to 48 hours, I believe. I forget what I set up on the filtering. Past day. Okay, so the created time is past day. So basically, these are just recent notes that I've taken. And if I add a new resource, let's just call it note test, and I write something here, that would also show up in recent notes here. But after it's been a little while, that will disappear out of here. You can also go to all public, and this shows you all of your public notes. From here, you can private notes, and that will move them to private right here. And you can also, if you want to, remove them from private. And the opposite of private, you can pin them. So if you want to pin something, you can pin it up here on your home page, and then you can just click the link and open it up to that specific link if you want to, or you can open the page itself and read the notes inside. Now, working our way back up to the left side of the page, we have a few different menus. We have routine views, and these are going to be the views that we spend most of our time on. The home page is kind of our home base, so we'll spend some time here, but most of the time you'll either be on focus, plan, process, reflect, or calibrate. And the reason that I chose to set up these different pages is because I wanted you to be in a specific mindset whenever you went to these specific pages. So when you go to the focus page, it's focus time, right? There's nothing else. It's just a blank page with the quote that you choose. You can set up any quote here that you want and your action plan for the day. It's simple. So you complete these tasks as you go. And once you're done and it says no filter results, that means you're done with today's tasks. You can move on to plan. So plan is a view where you can see all of the upcoming tasks and all of the past tasks that haven't been completed. So you can drag things around. You can click into them and change their priority level if you want to. You can really load balance your days this way, because if you have a lot going on one day, you can just drag some things out and just kind of smooth out your working surface. You can view this in a week format if you'd like to. You can also view it in today. If I don't have any tasks for today, they aren't going to show up, but this is like today's to-do list, similar to your homepage and the focus page. If I go to week, as you can see, it's just the same as month, but I can drag things around and we can toggle between the weeks here. You can also toggle between the months in the same way. If you want to see tasks that are shelved, you can click here. And as you can see here, we shelved a task. And I don't know if you remember me shelving that earlier, but that's just a status that you can give a task. Okay, so it's basically just get it out of my way for now. I don't want to look at it. I don't want to see it. But when I want to do it again, I can drag it back into my calendar and it's like nothing happened, right? It's pulled off the shelf. It's back in my calendar. It's back into go mode. So now we can interact with this and we can complete it. So that's the action shelf, and you can drag things into it and you can drag things out of it. I recommend using the planning view every night when you go to bed or right before you go to bed, making sure that you plan tomorrow today, or at least when you get done with work for the day or your tasks are done. That should be one of the last things you do, is just basically plan whatever it is that you have coming up. So if I've completed everything for today, or if I'm exhausted and I need to drag something out or replan or recalibrate, I can do that. But at the end of the day, everything should be clear. Your past should be clear, and you should have a plan for the days ahead. So that is what I suggest. Not to say that it's a formula that works for everyone, but I think that like trying to spread these out works best, and really just trying to focus on a few things at once is better. So this can visualize that for you. Are you overextending yourself, or are you able to actually function and get things done on a regular basis, get 2 to 3 good sized tasks out of the way per day? That's the goal with this. I know my brother was using this over on AI Foundations. He might be mad at me for sharing his secret sauce, but I saw his planning view and it was just chock full of course modules. He created a course on AI, on how to use ChatGPT. So check out his channel. He used this workhorse to get the job done. Just search up AI Foundations and tell him Productive Dude sent you. Anyways, so that is the planning view. Now let's move on to the process view. Process is very simple. If there's something that needs processing in the system, if there are cobwebs that need cleaned out, if there are things that need to be purged, this is where it happens. This is where you'll find any violations of due dates or action dates. You can think of the process view as a filter for everything that is not right in your system. All the bugs, all of the kinks, all the knots in the system. And you have to go in on a regular basis and organize this to some degree. It's fairly automated, but this is something that is just necessary. And it's actually something that David Allen talks about in his book, Getting Things Done, is this sort of notion of processing your tasks later on. Since right now we're capturing them or completing them, we want to be processing them and designating a time for like processing and planning later on. Just like I said with planning, you want to designate some time to process. Usually you can do this at the same time. So if you just got done with your planning, everything is good, your day is empty. Now, before I dive into process, it's important that we understand how all of these databases interact with each other. So let's start out by going down to our settings menu and going to databases, and then we'll jump back to process. I'm going to go to databases, and as you can see, we have a hierarchy diagram of all of these databases and how they work. The database symbol is this cylinder here, so any of these cylinders are databases in Notion. You can create a database by hitting / and typing in database. You can create an inline or a full page database. All of the databases in this system are full page databases, and they're listed right here: areas, sub areas, actions, resources, and days. These circles represent properties within the databases. So I don't list out all of the properties in each of these databases because this would be a crazy graph if so, but I just wanted to integrate metrics and habits so that you understand the architecture of the overall system. Metrics and habits are properties, not databases. The database that they are related to are days. So we're working along like a days timeline, essentially, with the metrics and habits. So this system is a bit of a separate system from the areas, sub areas, actions, resources. Now, areas are basically the most important thing in our world. So if I go to the calibrate routine, I'm jumping around a lot here, I apologize, but the calibrate routine is where you can see the big picture. What areas in your life are you focused on? These are all of the areas in my life. I have personal, health, real estate, Productive Dude, Humways, and 36 Lakes. So 36 Lakes, Humways, and Productive Dude, those are all companies that I own. Real estate is just something else that I do on the side. Health is something that everyone should focus on, and personal is anything that isn't related to these things, basically, or anything that's family related for that matter. The next section down is sub areas, and sub areas are the next level of hierarchy that we have within our areas. So my personal life has a sub area of clean and tidy living / working space. So this is just about having a clean office essentially. So this is an action that I take just to clean my office at the end of the day. And I wanted to put it within a sub area, a goal of keeping a clean and tidy living / working space. This is the motivation you can think of, or the goal behind the action. You can see that we have an all tab, but we also have it sorted into goals. We have ending and ongoing goals. If I hit new here, it's going to give me this checklist that loads in below. And if it's ending, as it says here, like I was saying earlier, you have to give it a timeline, a start and an end date. So it gives you that instruction, right? That's the only difference that you can basically influence on these different types of sub areas. So goals can have a starting or ending date. Entities don't have a starting or ending date. So we don't need to group by starting and ending here. And these sub areas just don't have an ending. So it's ongoing. So we don't need to fill in a timeline. And as it says here for entity, I can just replace the entity with entity's name. Let's just do that. Replace entity with entity's name, choose one area that the goal fits into most accurately. And it says goal, but it should say the person. And here you can add that and then basically check that off. And once it's checked off, you can close this, boom. And now I can add actions or resources related to that person. Down here, I can set my focus statement. So let me show you a few quick ways that you can set up your focus statement. So you can just use basic text. You can mark it as code. You can underline it while it's marked as code. You can bold it. This is a look that I've been experimenting with that I think looks pretty cool. When it's underlined, it just does that bottom border, and I think that looks neat. You can strike through it. I don't know if that you would do that. You can italicize or bold. You can change the color of it, which I think is also very neat. I love this look with this little underlined text here. Like I said, that's something that I haven't seen a lot of people use in their workspaces, but you can really just change this to whatever style you want. You could even go ahead and add a quote in here. Just hit / and type quote, and it would put in the special quote font, which is just a little bit bigger. So do it however you want. And another thing that you could do here is you could just embed anything. So if you just want to embed like a Pomodoro timer or something like that, just hit embed, and you can embed using some kind of Notion embed if you want to. And that is a really neat way to use this as well. I've seen some people do that, or even just putting like a GIF in there. Just put whatever you want here. So I've kind of skipped around a bit here. We went from focus, plan, and then we went to process. And I had to kind of backtrack a bit and talk about the hierarchy. Then we went over to the calibrate page and explained areas and sub areas a bit more. And we added this focus statement. Now I'm going to head back over to process because everything is going to make more sense now. This is where basically everything that doesn't have information gets processed. So areas, if there's a new area that needs some kind of information, it will show up here. If you don't see anything, then you're in luck. Everything's organized properly. Sub areas, same thing. We've created 2 new sub areas here. So the reason that these are in here is because they have no area. So we have to set up an area for these and they will disappear. Now, if this was ending, it would also need a timeline. So if John Smith was ending, then it would need like a end date. And as soon as I give it an end date, it disappears out of there. So again, if it's ongoing, it just needs the following information. It just needs area, duration, type, and sub area. But if it's ending, it needs a timeline as well. So I'm going to sort this one out. And now we're at inbox 0, as you can see. Now let's move on to actions. This one is broke down very nicely. It breaks it down into needs info, past due, and reschedule action. So this is some very crazy book-long formula that I had to write to get here, but I was able to create some filtering and create a formula that basically tells you what these need. So these just need info. Basically, what that means is it needs a priority, it looks like here. So we need to set some priorities for these different tasks. Many of these have action dates, but not all of them do. So we're going to set action dates. I'm just going to set arbitrary ones. That one, as you can see, when I clicked on it, it says reschedule action now. And that's because I put it for an action date in the past. It's a very smart system. If I put it for today, it brings it back here. It needs info now. Okay, so let's go to due date. And the reason that these are still here is because they don't have a due date or a sub area. So we need to add a due date for all of these. And we need to go ahead and add a sub area that makes sense. If you don't have a sub area for it, create one called general. But what I highly recommend is doing a bit of introspective work and thinking about why you're doing all the things that you do throughout the day and quickly just jotting down a new sub area here for what it is that you do, right? Film Productive Brain 3.0. Why do I do it, right? Whether I want to be altruistic and I want to share the part of it of I want to help people, which I do, or I want to share the part where I want to say, hey, I want to make $100,000 a month with this product someday. I want to turn it into a software, a SaaS product. I can really write whatever I want here, whatever my intentions are, so that I can map out like what I'm doing to reach those goals, reach those intentions, or to enhance that notebook that I created, or fill out more information on a CRM for a person that I added, right? Whatever it might be, this sub area is here to give you context as to like where that is going, what part of your life it's funneling to, and how much time you're spending in that part of your life that are inherited. Because remember, sub areas and the tasks underneath them and the resources underneath them all live under an area. And that area is really going to give you some insights into like how you're spending your time and what bucket of your life is getting filled the most. So let's finish processing these. As you can see, as I fill out the sub area for these, they disappear and they go to where they're supposed to be. But you'll notice that we still have some tasks that are past due. That's because the due date is in the past. So I have to reschedule these things and they will slowly but surely disappear. Then we'll go down to our final section. I can close needs info on actions and we can go to needs review on notes. In this section, it's filtered by 3 rules. Okay, if there's nothing here for the name, it's going to show up in here. Another reason that it might be showing up is if the resource is not reviewed. So here it's not reviewed on all of these. None of these have been marked as reviewed. That means that I took the note, but I never went back and looked at it. So factor 75 here, I can hit reviewed because I know what that is. I know what that is. I've seen that. Oh, what is this one? I open it up. Oh, it needed a name. It had, let's say it had a YouTube video on it. What is this YouTube video about? Well, it's a Notion second brain video. Okay. And I can take some notes on it here. Productive dude. If I want to tag it with my name or whatever, and then I can add in notes about quick capture and areas and whatever I want to write about, right? So that is the point of this processing here, right? Is you've reviewed that now. I can mark it as reviewed and it's gone. Let's say these ones were already good. I just wanted to check in with it again, make sure that I have cemented it in my mind, right? And then I can hit reviewed. So at this point, everything has been processed, but I added a new sub area, if you remember right, general here. What you can do is you can go in and delete things if you don't want them in your system. So that's what I'm going to do with this. I'm just going to delete it. And everything updates dynamically here. So if I deleted that general, it's going to open up this action that now needs a new sub area because general was deleted. But everything works together and nothing slips through the cracks. So now everything should be processed. And it's a simple checklist that automatically puts it in front of you every single day when you go through and you process and plan. This theoretically should only take you like 5 to 10 minutes at the end of your day. You sit down, you process and plan so that you're ready for the next day. And you can switch into your focus mode and you can actually get to work. And of course, you can have your quote, your Pomodoro timer, your puppy, whatever it is that you want right here. The last page that we haven't talked about in routine views is reflect. So if I go to reflect, it's going to show me a few very interesting items. And this is something that I really like about this system is not only does it help you plan for the future, focus in the present, but it also helps you look at the past and get some insights. So you can see today, what have I done? Yesterday, what did I do? Past 7 days, what did I do? And you get this really good picture of some of the things that you're completing, right? And then in habits here, I see today. I can go see yesterday and I can edit yesterday if I had something that was different. I can go to the past 7 days and see my trends if I want to. I can see what percentage of days I've actually completed, and I can see averages for my sleep score. I can see all of my tags, and I can just check out the individual day. In fact, if I wanted to open it, I could even write a journal entry right here on individual days if I wanted to. And that can be interfaced with on the homepage, right? If you remember right, we have today's habits. You just click into here and you can write your journal entry. So it's somewhat of like a bullet journal and a task tracker and a note tracker that like brings everything back into context in the reflect view here. So it's pretty great. You also can see an archive of all of the completed sub areas and areas, which I find to be quite useful as well if you want to look back on your accomplishments. A bit of a trophy case, if you will. I'm going to go back to home here. And as you can see, we now have one more section, one more menu to look at, and that is the settings menu. If I click on components, you'll notice that each component in this system is broken down into a category. For actions, we have different ways to view your to-do list. If you open it up here, this is just a simple to-do list. Here we have to do with areas. So this shows you the sub area and the area. So if you want more context around your to-dos, you can use this. As you can see, there's all sorts of different tabs that you can switch between and components that you can look at. So if you're somebody that likes to tinker, if you're somebody that likes to understand how things work, then you can come in here and you can look at all the different components. They are all synced blocks, so you can paste them anywhere in your system. You can even create new routine views if you wanted to. So like link, for instance, the go to home link right here, it's featured in so many places, right? If I want to paste it somewhere else, I can just click copy and sync, and I can see that it's on 8 other pages. I'm just going to copy and sync it. And let's say I want to put it on, I want to put another one here on the widgets page, right? So I would just hit Control V. It already has 2, but I can drag it wherever I want, and then it will work as a go back to home button. So that is kind of how components work. And I've just stored everything in here so that it's organized and you know how the whole system works. Again, databases is just this hierarchy to help you visualize the system, and then all of the individual databases if you want to view the data independently of these routine views. The routine views pretty much just add context to your data, and so does the home page. So if you're on the home page and the routine views, you might not even need to go into settings. Components, databases, and widgets are more for like people that are hacking this thing, but most people will just use like quick capture, routine views, and their home page. But like I said, if you want to go into the details, get into the nitty gritty, you can click onto each of these and you can view them through a few different lenses like active, archive, and master view, which shows you everything that has to do with these, even the backend properties. Oh yeah, and I would also like to note that I try to put an X on any property that isn't applicable to you. So I try to hide these anywhere, but there's always a master view that shows you all of the properties. So if you are someone that likes to work with Notion databases, you can get in here and see how the whole thing works together. It's important to note that when you're on a full page database like this, you can't hit go to home because it's a full page database. There's nothing here but a database. So I have to use the breadcrumbs up here to get back to where I was. And then once I'm back in the template, I can go home if I want to, or I can navigate with the routine views or the settings views. Finally, we have widgets. You can use them as shortcuts on your phone. You can basically set up a widget with the Notion app on your iPhone or Android, and you can link it to any of these that you want. So we have quick capture, today's to do, and action shelf, so that you can view these things very quickly through a widget on your smartphone. This has been the Productive Brain 3.0 tour. If you want to purchase the Productive Brain, you can use the link below this video. And if you want to learn how to build a simple version of this Productive Brain Lite, then you can go ahead and check out this other video right here, where I show you how to build a productive brain and I give you the basic fundamentals for how you can get started.